My name is Altaf Lal. I serve as the president of Kashmir Care Foundation. So, on everyone that has worked so far and continues to work on behalf of Kashmir Care Foundation, a very warm welcome to everyone that has dialed in today. आज हम mostly English में बात करेंगे, कुछ उर्दू में भी करेंगे, and from time to time we may slip into Kashmiri. Kashmiri simply because ये mother tongue होती है, कभी-कभी slip हो जाता है कश्मीरी में, but we'll maintain conversation with English. So again, a very warm welcome. I understand we have students, young professionals from around the country and some from outside the country also dialed in, and obviously many from Kashmir. Kashmir Care Foundation is a platform to enable conversation, interaction, to get to know each other with the greater purpose to engage, inform, and inspire the young professionals, the young students. This is fourth in the series in medical sciences, health sciences. The first one was dedicated to Ali Chan Saab's life and legacy. The next three to Raj Bhan's, and you'll hear a little more about that in a minute. इस सेशन के बाद we're moving to more societal needs, student needs, whether they're in school or colleges. So for those of you who have not been following us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, please do it. That's how we communicate with you. Join us, ask your friends and families to join us. For instance, हमारा जो मार्च का सेशन होगा, that will be a session on balancing success and happiness as we go through school life, college life, and in professional life. We're going to have some of the most remarkable panelists join us, Dr. Mushtaq Maroop Saab and Sabah Haji, one from Srinagar, other from Doda, and I'll moderate that session. एक स्पेशल मैसेज हमारे पास आई है आज सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ हेल्थ रिसर्च DGICMR राजीव एल साहब की और नीता भंडारी जो डायरेक्टर है SAS की. Both of them work very closely with Raj Bhan, and I'd like Zahoor Saab to share that messages, and I'll come back for a minute again. Zahoor Saab, over to you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Altaf Lal and Kashmir Care Foundation for inviting me to the Dr. M.K. Bhan webinar series that focuses on discovery, development, and clinical trial sciences. I'd like to join Professor N.K. Ganguly, former DGICMR, Dr. Renu Swaroop, former Secretary DBT, Principal Scientific Advisor, former Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Vijay Raghavan, MD Bharat Biotech International Limited, Dr. Krishna Ella, and former Director of NIH Fogarty International Center, Dr. Roger Glass, in congratulating Altaf for establishing an interactive platform for conversations with students and young professionals. I had the unique opportunity to work with Professor Bhan for more than 25 years. And he was my mentor. And most of what I learned about research, I learned from him. He was the best physician scientist and a visionary and leader in biomedical research. In addition, he was the finest human being that I have met. And his skills and his commitment to mentor younger people into becoming world-class researchers was something that is unparalleled. So it is fitting that this kind of webinar series has been set up. The clinical trials program of the rotavirus vaccine was the state-of-art multi-center program that was started by Dr. Bhan and executed by various Indian institutions, including the Society for Applied Studies, CMC Vellore, KEM. And it was under his visionary leadership that a team of experts around the country has given India a rotavirus vaccine, which is developed and made in India. And this vaccine is currently saving infections and lives of millions of Indian children. I'd like to urge the participants of today's session, Clinical Sciences, Scope, Science, and Significance, to continue in the footsteps of Dr. M.K. Bhan and develop new and improved medical products for India and for the rest of the world. Thanks again to Kashmir Care Foundation for making this happen.
Thank you to the Kashmir Care Foundation and to Dr. Altaf Lal for inviting me to be a part of the sessions held in Dr. Bhan's memory. I had the privilege of working with Dr. Bhan for over 3.5 decades, initially at AIMS and then at the Society for Applied Studies, where I am now. And most of this work was related to clinical trials. I would like to share a few strengths that we believe made him truly exceptional. His ability to be in a room full of people with diverse opinions and getting them to reach a consensus without killing each other. At one point in the Rotavac trials, there were 10 partners and 6 IRPs, and we believe he was the primary reason that kept the group together. Another characteristic was that, or in the people working with him, he had this ability to identify a unique strength that an individual had, and often the individual did not recognize that himself. And then he would push the person to grow in that direction. His commitment to young scientists is well known. He called them young folks. His gentle style was misleading. He was a taskmaster, but also ensured that they had enough fun times together. His relentless drive, and those who have watched him will understand, we believe came from his deep love for children, and his aspiration for India's children was that every child who was born in this country, from the time the child is in the mother's womb and until they are aged 18 years, their brains are well developed, their bodies are well formed, they get good education and nurturing care, and they become creative, enjoyable, and responsible citizens.
Dr. Lal, please.
Thank you so much, Zoor Saab, for doing this. I wanted to once again thank Bhan family today. This is third session in Raj's honor, celebrating his life and legacy. To Girja, to Gautam, to Abhishek, to Shireen. Girja, your husband, and Gautam, Abhishek, and Shireen, your dad, will live forever in Kanikadal, in Bisco School, in our hearts, and in our lives. Thank you again so much. Now, 3 more things, Amir, before I hand it over to you. Our next session, for those of you who have dialed in the last 4 or 5 minutes, is on balancing happiness and success as we study in schools, colleges, or are working. And we're going to have two remarkable individuals who are going to be our panelists. One of them has to peel off in short while. Dr. Mushtaq Saab. Dr. Mushtaq Saab is a friend and a mentor to me and to many people. I'm going to ask you, Mushtaq Saab, if you can speak to the audience about your session for 20 seconds. I know you have a pressing commitments to me. Mushtaq Saab, over to you.
You're on mute, sir. Dr. Mushtaq, you're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Dr. Altaf Saab. I'm really delighted to be here with the galaxy of our scientists, faculty, and other participants in this session. Altaf Saab, actually, the forthcoming session is something which is actually, we are losing actually the contact with our children. See, that is a big dilemma and a challenge. So considering that, that is impacting it. Actually, it has detrimental effect on their development, and it will cost heavily to our society also. So just giving one aspect of the discussion that would be there in the session concerning each and every individual, be it a parent, be it anywhere, wherever we are. Because earlier we used to spend time with families. If I take only 1965, it was almost 70% of time would be spent leisure time or that social kind of an interaction would be with the family and friends. Now 2024, 60% of it is on offline, family it's 4.5, and friends some 13%, which means that we are talking about happiness, we're talking about pleasures. So happiness and pleasure and all other things are connected with us and as human beings. We have a social existence, we have a psychological existence, but unfortunately, I would just concluded here, we are losers. We are losers in the sense that as human beings, just within the last 5 years, 5.5 decrease, 5.5% decrease in emotional intelligence, which means the person is not able to understand himself, and he doesn't understand the needs and that emotional kind of a warmth and reciprocating it, which is almost making our children and next generation disabled. Even if they might have IQ, high IQ, even IQ is coming now down when we see globally as such. But only focusing on that and feeling that giving them money or making them, enabling them to earn more and more money. If money was actually the criteria for happiness, then Altaf Saab, America being one of the most leading and the richest countries at sixth in GDP, but in suicide, depression, it is third in the world. So that would be something which we would be discussing in the conversation.
Thank you, Mushtaq Saab. For everyone whose passion is clinical sciences, this next session should also be your passion. So please look us up and join us for that. Have your parents join in. And I'm going to ask Sabaji towards the end make a comment too. दूसरी चीज है हमारे एक पैनलिस्ट जो आमिर साहब उनको इंट्रोड्यूस करेंगे, who is the host of this event at Sun Pharma facility today, is Dr. Arshad Khuru. Arshad Khuru, we knew he writes, but he's also a professional author. This is his second book. Perceivable interactions, very fitting to what we do in Kashmir Care Foundation. So, Arshad Saab, congratulations for the second book. Thank you so much. And तीसरी चीज मैं कहना चाहता हूं, and Amir, I'm taking longer. Siri in Kashmir University has been awarded a institutional grant from ICMR. So अगर अल्ताफ साहब और गुलजार साहब और एजाज साहब line पे हैं, I wanted to congratulate them on behalf of Kashmir Care Foundation. With that, Amir Saab, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your opening remarks. And congratulations again to Arshad Bhai for his wonderful book. Moving on with the session, we have this very special session entitled Clinical Research, Science, Significance, and Scope. And we are happy that we have a large number of participants join today. By now, we have 127 participants online. Welcome all. And the panelists for this session are some accomplished people within the field of drug discovery research and clinical trials. We have with us Dr. Arshad Khuru, Dr. Muhammad Amin Mir, Dr. Vijay Raina, Dr. Shaukat Mir, Dr. Mubashir Masoodi. So, to begin with, I would request each one of them to introduce. But before that, I want to make a quick comment about the place where we are hosting this session. So Dr. Altaf Lal and Dr. Arshad Kuru and Dr. Shaukat Mir are there in a conference room within Majidia Hospital of Jamia Hamdard, New Delhi. And what we also have as a special session is that many panelists of this session, including Dr. Arshad Kuru, Dr. Shaukat Mir, Dr. Mubashir Masoodi, and the panelists, which is myself, we all have had our education from Jamia Hamdard, this institution where this event is being hosted. And the university was set up by a very humble person and an accomplished clinician, Hakim Abdul Hamid Saab. So we want to acknowledge his contributions to the field of education because there are lakhs of students who have made it big because of Jamia Hamdard, and many of those who probably would not have had such opportunity if it was not for this excellent institution. So we acknowledge Hakim Saab's contributions to the field of education for establishing this university, and we pray that he obtains the highest level of Jannah. Moving on, I would now request the panelists to please introduce themselves. So I will begin with Dr. Arshad Kuru, please.
Thank you, Amit. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Arshad. I'm basically from Kashmir. There is a district called District Baramulla. So last time, most of the people were from Kashmir. This time, we have our non-Kashmiri colleagues as well. So I want to tell them there's a district in north of Kashmir called District Baramulla and a place called Sopore. And from Sopore, there's a village which is around 5 kilometers from there. So I was born there. My basic education was from the same village. In 1991, I moved out of the valley and I joined Jamia Hamdard. I completed my bachelor's degree in pharmacy from Jamia Hamdard. And in 1995, there were some vacancies in Ranbaxy Research Laboratory. As a finalist, they were interviewing candidates. And in fact, I was the first person selected as a graduate in Ranbaxy. It was a dream come true for me. And afterwards, and again, I want to tell the students that who are saying that once we join private company and we cannot complete our further education, sorry guys, that's not right. After I completed my graduation, I joined as a full-time employee in Ranbaxy. Then I completed my post-graduation from BITS Lani and a PhD from BITS Ranchi, and it was a full-time program, and my management allowed me to pursue my post-graduation and PhD accordingly. Currently, I'm heading bioequivalence and bioability department at Sun Pharma. It's in fact phase one comes under phase one clinical trial, part of phase one study. And we have bioequivalence units across globe. Like we have bioequivalence unit in Romania, we have a unit in New Delhi, we have a unit in Gurgaon, we have a unit in Baroda. There are around 275 pharmacokinetic scientists who are reporting it to me. Thank you so much. What do you want me?
Thank you so much, Arshad Bhai. Now, may I request Dr. Muhammad Amin Mir to introduce himself, please?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I think this is a special session for me because this is the first time in my life, the land which has given me everything. This session, I am right now at that place. I was born and brought up from this place. This is a small village known as Lugripura. It is roughly around 8 kilometers from Sopore, and it is at walking distance from Agricultural University Vadodara campus. So I really feel good as this moment that being from this village now, I am connecting with the world from this place only. I did my schooling from this place only. I did my 10 plus 2 from this place. Then I moved to AM IST, where I did my graduation and post-graduation. So in post-graduation, when I was doing my MS, I chose my thesis topic. That was, I was searching for that. Then I come across one of the study which was done in schemes, which was actually related to surgical incisions given by surgical knife versus electric diathermy. Why I want to make this point over here, when I start working on that thesis, I gained some interest in the research that how it works, because when I was evaluating my results, then I come to know that the main part is played by the biostatistician. So during this is the story of 2004, 2005, when internet was not at the boom. We used to come Delhi to animal library to get our relevant articles, literature, and everything. So at that time, I come across one of the citation where I come to know that Cranfield UK is offering post-graduation in the clinical research. I pursued that course from 2006 to 2008. Then after completing that, I joined Fortis Group of, where I was taking care of mostly supporting Dr. Arshad for their BAB studies, and we were having a only unit in India for phase one. I was lucky enough that at Fortis I get the exposure for phase one. I was there for almost 6 years. Then I moved to one more Indian German company, that is Venus Remedies, which are more in anti-cancer and antibiotics. Luckily, they were doing phase two study for one of the breast cancer diagnostic. Then I was a part of that phase two and phase three of that product. And additionally, I get a chance to be the part of one more phase three novel antibiotic study. That is the only Asian studies which was published in ID Week. So I feel lucky enough that I am the part of the complete clinical cycle. That is phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four. Currently, I am more in the, I hope everybody is aware of, because patient safety is more important. That is, there is a one parallel division in the clinical trial, which we call as pharmacovigilance. Currently, I am involved in the pharmacovigilance because as world grows, the safety concerns grows and more awareness goes. So pharma companies needs to be updated to take more care of the patient safety, and that is the reason now pharmacovigilance is becoming the most important segment for the pharmaceutical industry. So I think, Ahmed, that is all about me. Let us have a healthy discussion going forward.
Thank you so much. There's some echo coming from
There is some voice disturbance somewhere, I think.
some conference room. So if all other participants can please mute, and only the person who is speaking can stay unmuted. So may I now request Dr. Vijay Raina to please introduce himself?
Greetings to everyone. Amir sir, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly fine.
Yeah. Thanks to KCF team for giving me this opportunity to be part of this KCF project and the session today as a panelist. So I'll be taking a flight from North Kashmir to South Kashmir, which is Anantnag. I was born there, did my schooling in Happy Home Anantnag, then went to Degree College Anantnag to do my biology and chemistry. Moved to University of Kashmir, Hazratbal, Srinagar to do my PG in chemistry. I joined as a teacher in a government school in a uh, small town in Anantnag, which is known as Malaknag, for 1 year. And due to some unavoidable reasons, family reasons, I was given a responsibility by my parents to run a shop of newspapers and booksellers in Lal Chowk, Anantnag, for a year or so. My parents moved to Jammu in early 1990s, where I joined Leo Pharmaceuticals as a manufacturing chemist for 2 years. Got a break as a chemist in renowned research center on natural products known as Multichem Research Center in Baroda. Then moved to Sun Pharmaceutical Advanced Research Center Spark in Clinical Research Department for another 7 years. From 2005 onwards, I moved to Hyderabad and set up drug discovery labs for a US-based company called Dector Therapeutics, and worked there for close to 18 years. I am a scientific consultant now with Eisen Drugs in Hyderabad and have also started a biotech startup in CCMB Hyderabad to pursue research on fusion proteins with a US-based friend who is also an alumni of AIMS Delhi. The message that I want to give to the students is that my journey has been learning from beginning to end. So my message is that learning never stops, and whenever we do something new,
So we should get hold on to it and never worry or have confidence, enough confidence, take support to do certain things which are out of our mind. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Raina. Wonderful message. Thank you so much. May I request Dr. Shaukat Mir to please introduce himself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Shaukat Mir. I'm basically from Baramulla. I did my basic education from a local school and completed my 10th in 1989. Afterwards, I went to government high secondary and I completed my 12th in 1991. I joined the local college, Government Degree College, Baramulla, for a while before moving to Delhi to pursue my B Farm from Jamia Hamdard. So I completed my B Farm in 1999, and then to seek admission in PG, we used to have then GATE examination as a mandatory one. So I qualified in 1999, and 2001, 2020, 2001, 2002, I completed my M.Pharm. So right after that, I was inducted as a lecturer in Jamia Hamdard. I continued my studies. I completed my PhD in 2006, and I was then appointed as assistant professor. There onwards, now currently I am the professor in pharmacognosy and pharmacognosy and phytochemistry in Jamia Hamdard. So around 30 years of experience as a student, as an academician, a researcher. I have few experiences that I would like to share with all of you as this discussion proceeds. Back to you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you so much. Dr. Mubashir Masoodi, please.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you. My name is Mubashir Masoodi and presently I'm working as a professor in the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, University of Kashmir. Well, I belong to District Baramulla and I had my initial schooling from District Baramulla, St. Joseph School. And then after passing 12th, I came to Jamia Hamdard to pursue my B Pharm. After B Pharm, I qualified GATE and got enrolled for the master's program, M Pharm in Pharmaceutical Chemistry. After finishing my M Pharm, I came to Kashmir Valley and got appointed as assistant professor contract basis. And in 2002, I got the permanent position. Later on, I got enrolled for my PhD program at Jamia Hamdard only. And in 2007, I completed my PhD program. Later on, I also got opportunity to visit United States in connection with the Indo-US Raman postdoc fellowship. And I completed my postdoc fellowship from University of Mississippi in 2013 and 14. And later on, I also took up the charge of department as head from 2021 to 2024. And presently, I'm the director of Kupwara campus, University of Kashmir. So that is a brief academic. And regarding my research activities, we are mainly dealing with the isolation of bioactive molecules and then identifying the different patterns, how they work against the different diseases. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Mubashir Masoodi has recently taken the responsibility of being director of Kupwara Care Foundation. Congratulations for this achievement. And for all our students who are here now, you what the of the panel have been like. Starting from the humble beginning to the hard work they have so far. So that is inspiring for all of those students who want to make a mark that you can do it when you have it within you. So moving on, we will now begin with our first round of panelist discussion. So this entire
I'm sorry, Trump. There's some interruption in your voice. We can't hear you clearly.
Mine?
Yeah.
So if I...
Yes, I was thinking it is with me only. Okay. Thanks, Tanzila.
Amir Saab, you may want to change the device, which you were doing first.
No, I'm using the same device. So see, when I mute, is the...
It's better now, Amir. It's better now. You can please continue.
It was from somewhere else, I guess, because when I'm muting, it's still coming to me. But anyways, so it's better now, right?
Right.
Okay. We'll carry on with the first round of the discussions, which is entitled Understanding the Drug Development Process. So, my first question would be to Dr. Kuru. Though you were part of our previous panel discussion as well last month, Dr. Kuru, and we heard a lot about your wonderful work that you do out there in Sun Pharma. So we know that you have had a long association with this big pharmaceutical industry and you have been at the forefront of very exciting projects. Could you describe the journey a new compound takes from discovery to the clinical stages for us? And what are the pivotal decisions and challenges faced during these initial phases? Dr. Kuru, please.
Sure, Amir. Thank you so much, Amir. Let me divide this question into two parts. One is there are two pathways to drug development. One is innovative drug development, and second is generic drug development. So, but fortunately, in both these pathways, there is one precursor and also challenge. That challenge is that prevalence of that particular disease and business. Now, for example, if I'm working on some innovation, if it is not practically possible or feasibility is not there or its applicability is not there, then it's of no use. So that's why the first step in innovation is its disease prevalence. This innovative drug development takes around maybe 10 years or 15 years. So after 15 years, what disease is prevailing in what market? That is my first precursor for that drug development. Then it is followed by in vitro modeling, selection of molecule, a particular molecule is selected or a couple of molecules are selected. Those go through different preclinical stages, including animal modeling. Once it crosses that period, that phase, that's preclinical phase, it goes to then clinical phase. In clinical phase, we have phase 1, we have phase 2, we have phase 3, and after phase 3, usually we get the approval from regulatory market. Then this particular drug which is approved, we take that commercial batch and it's launched in the market. And similar way, if we talk of generic product development, again it starts with the same thing. That is, the disease has to be prevailing in that particular market, and second, business should be there because see if that particular drug or particular development drug is not marketed or its patients are not available, then that development becomes useless. So in generic drug development also accordingly, the first phase is business and the drug the disease prevailing. The second important part is API development. That's followed by formulation development. And when formulation is developed, there's a equivalence, which is called as bioequivalence. We have to prove that our drug is equivalent to the innovative drug, which could be through pharmacokinetic endpoint studies or pharmacodynamic endpoint studies. It could be through clinical trial. And again, when we get the approval, there's a commercial batch followed by launch in the market. So during this all development stage, there are many pivotal challenges which we face, and out of those challenges, we have to take a decision, and then decision making is also important. First one, as I mentioned, I will not elaborate that. That is that whether on that innovation, whether that's in future, whether that is practically possible or not. Then second, during selection of those molecules, it could be some herbal extract, it could be some synthesis part, whether synthesis is possible or not, how is the complexity in the synthesis, whether the drug is that particular molecule is stable or not. After that, we have to also see that if we have to use this as an oral product, whether it is getting absorbed or not. If it's not getting absorbed, then it's of no use. Whether it's what will be its toxicity. So when we even move from in vitro to preclinical, we have to take a decision based on all these challenges. From preclinical to clinical, because clinical is when we are first time using this drug in the human beings. So it has to be less toxic. It has to be tolerable to human subjects. Even when we go for a phase 1 study, which is usually called as tolerability study, we have to be sure that it's not poisonous to the human beings. And we start with very low dose and see how is the tolerability of that particular drug with a particular dose. And once we finalize that dose, then it goes to phase 2 and phase 3. And accordingly, in generic development also, same things applicable. When we move from a particular API development to formulation development, the most important thing in this category is also that whether that market is available for that particular drug or not. The second is that if we are preparing some API, is that API stable or unstable? Whether it will be, if it is different polymorphic form, if it will be equivalent to our innovator product, whether it will be absorbed or not. Then it goes to formulation development, and we have to see that whether formulation is possible or not. That again is followed by equivalence, and in different equivalence phase, we have a lot of challenges. It needs a lot of time, but we can discuss that later on in some sessions. And this is followed by commercial batch. The most important part, again, I'm repeating here, is that any innovation, it is possible only, number one, it should be feasible, and second is applicability. Thank you, Anwar. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kuru. That's very, very insightful. Thanks a lot. Now, my question to Dr. Mohammad Amin Mir. Dr. Mir, patient safety and risk management is a cornerstone of clinical research, we know. So, how do you integrate emerging safety protocols from the planning to the execution stages of a trial, particularly in response to any unforeseen complications that may arise? Dr. Mir, please.
Yeah, thanks. So I want to take one moment because to make the continuity with the what Arshad was presenting. So everybody should know that when we are talking of the drug development, when we are talking of the clinical trial, this is the organized way of doing the things. Whatever we do in the clinical trials, whatever we follow in the clinical trial, that is driven by some documents which are known as the governing documents. So we have commonly we can say there are three documents which usually govern the study. That is, first one is the protocol, it is the blueprint for the study, and second one is the SOPs. Those are the standard operating procedure for each activity. Third one is the one which we call SMP, safety management plan. So we have this well described protocol and safety management plan where we describe all the risks, because when we are going from lab to clinical shelf, this is a long journey. First it is a preclinical, what Arshad was saying. Once we move into the clinical phase, we can say we have mostly important three phases. Phase one, which is known as safety phase, where the primary objective of the study is to rule out the safety only. We do not focus more on the efficacy, but the primary objective for phase one is always that is safety. When we would move to the phase two, again we have primary objective of the safety, but we add efficacy also over there. We focus on, because we are targeting the population for that particular indication. When we go to the phase three, then the primary objective is efficacy, but still secondary objective is safety of the patient. When product is launched, when we get the when we become the market authorization holder and we market this drug, again it is mandatory to have phase four. And for phase four, the primary objective is the safety of the study. So I want to make an emphasis over here. Whatever we do, our first priority is to make sure that this drug is safe for patient. That is, there is always an eye on the benefit risk ratio. It should never cross benefit to the risk. Risk should always low compared to the benefit. That is the motto of the clinical trial drug development. If you see how we manage this, how we tackle this, we have different authorities on place. The first firewall, first checkpoint is the investigator who is doing the studies. He keeps a close eye on the adverse events. If there is any adverse event, if it is serious, then there is a predefined timelines that you have to report it to your ethics committee who has given the approval to your study, and you have to report it to your local authority. Like in India, you have to report DCJ. Like in US, you have to report to FDA. Different territories, there are different regulatory authorities, and there is a timeline defined for that. For example, if we see if there is a fatal event, that means there is a death of the patient, there is a window defined that you have to report this within 7 days to the authority, to all the investigators. If it is non-fatal, then you have a window of 15 days. So I want to make point over here is that there is a strict timeline, strict guideline for reporting of these side effects, which we'll call adverse events, to the authority, to the ethics committee, to the investigators who are participating. So at no point of time, we can compromise safety of the study. This is the live basis. In addition, there is one more layer of firewall. That is, you have to report ASR, that is animal safety reports. So you have to provide the data on an aggregate basis to the authority, evaluate that data, justify benefit risk ratio is still favoring the benefit. And in addition to that, you have to keep an eye if there is any signal. If we are coming across any new safe side effect, Then we have to identify that signal. There is one document which is always kept updated on daily basis, periodic basis. That is the investigator brochure. Investigator has that brochure where he gets the guidance of everything, that is everything related to that product, whatever he wants to find in that, and that is reviewed minimum annually, and that can be reviewed ad hoc basis. uh, uh, I mean to say revise on ad hoc basis, so that if there is any safety challenge, investigators are updated on that, patients are on updated on that. I do not want to go deep into that, but I want to make point over here is that in clinical trial, whatever we do, that is an organized way of doing. We do not use our own rules. These are set rules defined before the execution of the trial. Those are get approved by the local authorities, and those are approved by the ethics committees. And there is one safety board. If we go for the phase 3, there is a DSMB. If we go to small studies, then there will be the dose escalation committees. So there are multiple layer of check walls which assure that at no point of time patient safety is compromised.
Thank you, Dr. Mir. Thank you. That's very insightful as well. Over to you, Dr. Raina. So we are talking about drugs, as Dr. Mir also put it, that obviously benefits have to be more. So we have to make sure that there are no risks for the patients. So we know that operational excellence in that context is a key in clinical trials. So could you share your insights into how complex trials are managed across different countries with like varying regulations? So what strategies ensure consistency and compliance? Dr. Raina, please. You're on mute, sir.
Sorry for that, sir. Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
So I would like to say that some of the points may overlap with Dr. Amin Saab and Dr. Arshad Saab. But the most important thing that has been highlighted in CT is clinical trial is safety and welfare of participating subjects, along with the confidentiality and integrity of data. So thumb rule for any experiment being conducted in the lab, whether it is a clinical trial or an analytical lab or anything or a clinical laboratory, anything related to clinical trial, suggests that if any activity is not recorded on the notebook or a template which is designed for the purpose, it is considered not done, because reconstruction of same study based on documentation after many years of project completion should become possible at the time of audit by regulatory authorities. That means if we submit a drug which is to FDA authority, which is US authority or DCJ authority, they may not have time to come right away for the audit. They may come after 2 years or 3 years. We should be able to, as a scientist, reconstruct that story in the form of documentation. That's what I mean. These are the two important aspects. I will tell you why CT are required. The test, because Arshad Saab already mentioned innovation and generic drug development. I am taking care of only innovation part here. To test a new drug for safety and efficacy in patients targeted at diseases for unmet need, emerging diseases, or repurposing of existing drugs. I will touch upon this repurposing of existing drugs at a later stage during my conversation. Human trials are conducted based on tox studies where the data suggests the determination of human equivalent dose. Because always when I mentioned safe dose, so human equivalent dose has to be established based on the tox data. Then human studies are governed by GCP ICH guidelines, which is International Conference for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use. There is a mutual acceptance data agreement between 5 countries, that is US, EU, European Union, Switzerland, Japan, and one other country. So that means if we do a study in any part of this world, which I have mentioned already, these 5 countries, then you can certainly file the data in other countries as well, because of that mutual acceptance data criteria. While as animal studies are governed by OECD GLP guidelines. So that means OECD, who are the signatories of OECD GLP guidelines. So you can do study in any country and file in all the 30 countries. India is also a signatory to the mutual acceptance of data. This is also very important because regulations also you can touch upon the topic later on also, because I want to give emphasis to certain technical points so that you take a note of them and then you find out what is the detail related to that. Few major differences between now somebody may ask a question, what's the difference between GCP and GLP? There's a minor difference in terms of study director responsibilities, management responsibilities, and terminologies. For example, audit in GCP is called inspection in GLP. I told you terminology. That's the difference, minor difference. QA responsibilities in GCP, QA has a responsibility to check. But in GLP, management is responsible to sign the SOPs and all. That's one more difference. Ownership of the project by test facility management in GLP. That's also one small difference. Then different phases already Dr. Amin Saab has mentioned: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Phase 1 is to determine the safe dose for phase 2 trial. Phase 2 trial is efficacy study in patients. Number of patients can vary from 100 to 200. Phase 3 is large population trials to determine the product information and labeling. This is done on thousands of patients across the globe, primarily in the Western world because of cost considerations. I'll tell you why. NDA and BLA filing is done mainly in these 5 countries: US, Europe, UK, Canada, Japan. Due to cost considerations on R&D spend versus return on investment. Because you may imagine that, okay, why a US drug is being innovated in US and why it's not sold in India? Because Indian rupees are not going to give them the return on investment. In US and Western countries, the pricing of new drug also depends on multiple factors, that is insurance coverage, innovators company support to patients under patient assistance program. I'll give you a small example here. I had a friend who developed multiple sclerosis. He was a young boy of 25 years. He was put on a drug called Mavenclad. So, which is again costing around 20 lakhs of rupees for 12 tablets. Can we imagine that somebody in India can afford that much of amount of money for 12 tablets for 1 year course? It's not possible. So what they did is they have taken a patient assistance program and insurance companies program so that that guy is on the medication for this 1 year. So that's the difference between certain rules and regulations between India and Western countries. Now, how the manage, because dependencies are also important. Dr. Amin Saab also mentioned dependencies. Overall project plan, its stakeholders, well-defined responsibilities. We also talked about SOPs and all. Proactive communication between stakeholders, because when a project plan is made, there are certain stakeholders, suppose doctors, nurses, clinicians, physicians, etc., scientists who are working in the lab and all. So clear defined responsibilities have to be there. Proactive communication across the dependencies: logistics, statutory compliance, storage facilities, specimen, archival, qualification of vendors, calibrated equipment, workflow processes, SOPs, validated procedures, handling of emergencies, waste handling, deviations, corrective action and preventive actions, risk management, backup plan. In terms of expertise required is chemical synthesis team is called chemists, product development as formulators, analytical team is known as assay development scientists, clinical operation team contains doctors, CRAs, clinical research associates, monitors. Quality management systems is QA staff, quality assurance staff. In terms of material availability, material generation, which is drug substance, from gram scale to ton scale, because when we synthesize any compound in the lab and then it has to be taken to large scale manufacturing, most of the companies may not have the own facility to develop a ton scale product. They go to the CMOs, which is known as CMO, contract manufacturing organization. If we don't have multi-central trials happen in CROs, that is known as clinical research organization, something like that. And similar thing with the consistency, meeting analytical specifications for precision accuracy, stability testing, and similar things for drug product. There are two things: drug substance and drug product. Drug substance is raw material, which is API. Drug product is dose that we are taking as a patient. And main key stakeholders as per the regulations are sponsor, investigator, and monitor. Sponsor has financial obligation and data, like data ownership lies with the sponsor. Investigator, as Amin Saab mentioned, conduct of trial, reporting of adverse events, managing of trial, managing of medicine, managing of even managing of accountability of IPs is responsibility of investigator as per the guidelines. Monitoring of trial is QA. they have to monitor unannounced sometimes to see whether trial is going on properly. See what we require as per the GLP principles are, there are 13 principles: skilled personnel, study sites to conduct trials, risk versus benefit evaluation, confidentiality as per the EU GDPR. GDPR is General Data Protection Regulations Act, and US HIPAA Privacy Act, ethical conduct, safety, well-being of rights of participating subjects, IRB, Institutional Review Board, IEC, Institutional Ethics Committee approval, informed consent by patients, documentation, data integrity, report, GMP compliance of investigational product, handling of hazards and waste, monitoring of trials, IP, specimen accountability, storage and transport. These are the all principles of GCP. 13 principles. Risk always crop up if not planned well and mitigated with backup plans. That means safety of participating subjects is paramount during the trial and its time of reporting. Patient recruitment is a long process. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. Patient pool is not available in one country. You may have to go to another country to find if we are doing a cancer trial, for example, you have to find a cancer specialist who can handle that trial. Expert opinion is very, very important in clinical trials. That means study site has to be selected based on the patient pool. Material readiness for dosing, dependency on CMOs, CROs, as I already explained. Unknown impurities, drug substance and drug product during the scale-up process. We don't know if we are making 1 mg material in the lab and we scale up it to 100 kg in the plant. We don't know what kind of impurities will crop up because the volume of solvent that is being used in a large volume may cause some impurity profiling issues, and then that may cause even adverse event with the patients.
Dr. Raina, thankfully you actually answered a question that I was going to ask you in another round also.
Yes,
so Dr. Mir also answered part of that question, so you also answered. So that is very detailed. So thank you so much for that insight. So we'll have to move on in the interest of time, and I will come back to you.
Okay, sir. No problem.
Again.
Sure, sir.
So thank you so much for that very detailed insight, Dr. Raina. That's very helpful. So we have two very accomplished academicians as our panelists today, Dr. Shaukat Mir and Dr. Mubashir Masoodi. So they have been training students and have guided them in the field of pharmacy and clinical trial research and so on. So my question to Dr. Shaukat Mir is that, Dr. Mir, education in clinical research is evolving rapidly, right? We know that drug discovery and development is not the same as it used to be, let's say, 2 decades ago. So how do you prepare your students to adjust to this rapidly evolving field with multiple challenges? Dr. Mir.
Yeah, Dr. Amir, you rightly pointed out that this field has got struck with so many technological advancements that it has completely changed the landscape of this field. So, like particularly this COVID pandemic, where we saw like it brought many of those challenges, but at the same time, you saw like the people discussed, they used, they like listened every time they discussed this, like what sort of medicines are going, when they are going to come, and in the same way, they also discussed many types of diagnostics. So they were aware that this one drug or one vaccine may not be having the same effect, or maybe the duration in which they have to be taken. So that way, with this background, with the COVID-19 in the backdrop, we had such a surge of those students as well as parents that wanted to pursue their career in pharmacy. And in the same way, it also changed. It also increased our challenge. Like earlier, we used to have students which were like we used to orient them that now from biology and basic sciences, now you are going to learn about how the drugs are made. But with this informed parents and these students, the challenge becomes higher. So we try to keep ourselves, like it won't work like if we don't keep ourselves updated with the developments that go in the field. We have to keep, or even this curriculum has to be designed in a way that keeps them updated with all these recent drug approvals that could take place anywhere in the world, be it in India or be it in other parts of the world. So we have to keep students updated with all these information. So for that, we need to know and convey it to students. In the same way, we need to keep track of many of those patented technologies and the molecules. And even the patent expiry, like there are some molecules for which that are at the annual of that their piracy goes off, their patent goes off. So how they keep track of those? So that is also a challenge. In the same way, we also need to understand that market authorization, like which drugs or molecules have got recent market authorizations. So that way, we also need to keep in track of those things. Uh, in the same way, we know like that every now and then these regulatory aspects they get changed. So to keep a track of all those regulatory aspects, like for example, we have Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1994, 1940 being now debated in the Parliament, like. So if it comes into force, so we will have a Drug, Medical Devices and Cosmetic Act 2023. So where all these clinical trials, like how they are done, or what are the drugs that are to be regulated by this. So we need to keep an update and keep our students updated about all these things. In the same way, like the information, the boom, or the information boom that we have. So in a way, I find that teaching has not to be now the simple teaching. Where what you need to do is you need to mentor, like as a teachers, we need to mentor those students and to make them to keep them ahead of the curve. So that way, like I find like this teaching, no doubt it hasn't there are certain things which have to be improved, but we have to keep track of all those things. Back to you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Shaukat Mir. Well, that's very helpful for the students, I'm sure. So moving on to Professor Masoodi. So integrating regional health needs to global research agenda is challenging, Dr. Mubashir. So can you discuss a project where your research at Kashmir University or any collaborations outside of the valley successfully aligned local health priorities with global clinical research standards? Professor Masoodi, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Well, the integration of regional health needs into global research agendas has always been challenging. And at KU, we have carried few projects, especially by my lab, which were funded by UGC, ICMR, and CCRU. We have other disciplines at my department, be it pharmaceutics, pharmacology, pharmaceutical chemistry, biotechnology, or pharmacy practice. So every faculty member has his own projects, and they have been sanctioned by different funding agencies, and they are doing commendable work. So I would just like briefly tell you about a project that was basically submitted to ICMR and we concluded recently. It was regarding the isolation and evaluation of bioactive compounds from medicine plants from Kashmir Valley, which were found to possess anti-Alzheimer's activity. So as we know, the Alzheimer's disease is a brain disorder, and that slowly destroys the memory and thinking skills of an individual. And eventually, he loses the ability to carry out the simple tasks. If you see the United States at the age of 65, or there are 7 million people with AD. In India also, about more than 8 million population has got this dementia. So well, the drugs which are available for the Alzheimer's disease, they include different type of moieties like cholinesterase inhibitors, antipsychotics, antidepressants, etc. But these drugs, they help definitely manage the symptoms and slow the decline of memory and thinking, but they have got the side effects too once we use them over a considerable period of time. We have drugs like donzepilin, galantamine, or rivastigmine. So here comes the role of the natural products, which were always thought as an alternate to these medications, as we think they are devoid of side effects. So our first project was this kind of project which we carried out in a laboratory where we investigated the neuroprotective activity of two plants selected from Kashmir Valley and in context to Alzheimer's disease. And we found that there were chemical diversity of these. It was basically to the polyphenolic compounds, mainly flavonoids, that too of a cardiac this glycosides origin. And our study further demonstrated that these phytoconstants can modulate Alzheimer's disease pathway. We further conducted the computational study, in vitro study, in vivo study to collaborate it. Similarly, one more project that we did right now, we are doing it in collaboration with CCRU, is the evaluation of Habbe Asgand. It is basically a tablet that is used to treat rheumatoid arthritis. And although there is data available for this activity, but there is very less data when we talk about the quantification of this drug. So our project is dealing with basically PK and PA studies, pharmacokinetic and PD studies, whereby we try to elucidate what kind of molecule is present in the formulation and what's the content of that marker in that formulation. Because it is very important if you see the type of the secondary metabolites Ultimately, it is basically the secondary metabolite which is responsible for the activity or any kind of pharmacological response. So we are also doing that presently. And I also believe that the path for the future development of these plant-based therapies, it depends upon the extensive toxicological or you call it molecular studies in order to ensure that the safety and potency against be it Alzheimer's or any other disease. Thank
Wonderful.
you very much. Over to you, Amir.
Thank you, Dr. Mubashir. That's very interesting project. I mean, when you mentioned that you are using the local knowledge and trying to identify local plant sources that may have, because these diseases, as you mentioned, Alzheimer's disease, that's a multifactorial disease, and we don't have complete cure for this. Drugs that you mentioned, donepezil and others, they just give symptomatic treatment. So we do not address the root cause of the disease. So obviously, it needs alternative strategies. And there in Kashmir, if you are working on such problems in collaboration with agencies like CCRUM. So that's really commendable. Congratulations for that, and thanks
Thank
for
you,
the
Amir. Thank you.
Thanks. Wonderful. So we have overshot time a bit. So may I request all the panelists for the next round, we will just keep our answers to under 2 minutes so that we are able to discuss round 3 also, where we will be talking about the skill set that students need in this particular field. So with this, we end the round number 1 of panel discussion. And at this point, I would like to take a question from the audience. So we have received a question from Mr. Prabhat Agarwal, and the question is, what is the scope of biosimilars in future? So if any of the panelists would like to take this up, please let me know. Otherwise, then we would request anyone individually. Biosimilars, Arshid bhai, would you like to take this up?
Sure, Amir. Biosimilars, its origin is from bio. It's not very easy. This development is not very easy. It needs a lot of money, a lot of time, and most important problem in biosimilars is that even after working on biosimilar development, maybe 5 years or 6 years or 8 years, there's a possibility that we may fail. Yes, biosimilars have a very good scope, but it needs a lot of efforts, a lot of time, a lot of money. But future scope is very good for biosimilars.
Thank you, Dr. Arshad. Thank you so much for answering that question. I have another detailed question, but I do not have the name of the participant. So if you post that again, please, with your name, it says 1+. So it is just your phone name. So the question on how can we strengthen the trial in terms. So I will ask that later on. So please mention your name as well so that I can identify you. With this, I would like to move to the second round of this panel discussion, and which is on lessons from success and failure. So first question to Dr. Arshid. Reflecting on a significant success, could you recount the development of a landmark drug that had a major impact on healthcare? So what were the critical moments that defined its success? And you may tell us about any of the, either a Sun Pharma drug discovery or discovery from any other pharmaceutical giant that you find very impactful. So please.
Yeah, sure. I will keep this very brief.
Please.
We have a lot of innovations happening in Sun Pharma, especially because Sun Pharma is a generic company, especially it's happening a generic company. But we do have innovator products as well. One of them was Syndrium, and Syndrium is an anti-malarial product, and its market is now over many African countries as well as in India. But I want to give a feel of different innovations to the students and to the participants. And that is regarding isotretinoin. Now, isotretinoin is a molecule which was not innovated by Sun Pharma. But innovation does not mean that you have to be molecule has to be new, or it is also possible that you can just modify the already innovative product or an innovation which is there. You can modify it to make it more innovative or to have those unmet needs which is part of the requirement. Now, in this isotretinoin, the problem is that as a molecule, as a formulation, it is supposed to be given with food because food increases viability. That's absorption of isotretinoin increases by around 3 to 4 fold. So whenever isotretinoin is given to the patients, the doctor has to mention that, oh, please take this as with food, that too with high fat food. And Sun Pharma, we developed a formulation which is a micronized formulation. Micronized formulation means we have to use a particular particle size active pharmaceutical ingredient with a particular surface area, which has to be milled to get those specific D90 particle size. With that particle size, when we developed a formulation, we were able to achieve two things. Number one, if you take that formulation, even empty stomach or with food, it is not having any difference. The absorption is same, and that was one of the innovations which we did. And second one, in this isotretinoin only, the dose is like 20 mg and 40 mg. Because of this micronized formulation, we were able to reduce dose to 32 mg from 40 to 32 and from 20 to 16, and which helped in reducing gastro discomforts. This isotretinoin is used in many skin diseases, especially acne, and all of us know that acne is very prevalent in the United States. And believe me, this isotretinoin, our formulation, which is an innovation of the already innovative product, is our most selling product in US.
Thank you, Dr. Kuru. Thank you so much. There is another question which has come with name for you only. That this question is for Dr. Arshad Kuru, and this comes from your namesake, a very good friend, Dr. Arshad Hussain, who is also from Jamia Hamdard, presently director of Harsha Institute of Pharmacy. So his question, Dr. Kuru, is why is there a gap in research between industry and academia in India in the pharmaceutics field?
Well, Amir, I think Mubashir and Dr. Shaput should be told this, ask this question. But what my understanding is that yes, there's a gap between academics and the industry, and that gap could be reduced by means we can take these initiatives. Now we are going in two different directions. Academia, their objective is a little bit different, and pharmaceutical sector, our objective is a little bit different. That gap we are trying to, like as a Sun Pharma, we do have started collaborating with some institutes. In fact, Dr. Altaf Lal was part of that syndrome team, and we were also working on daily projects, and we do have started collaboration with some industries. And going forward, we have now some collaboration with Australia University, and in fact with one of the US universities as well. And in India, when I was in Ranbaxy, we had collaboration with Ranbaxy at the time. That gap we are trying to reduce, but not at the level which is expected from the researchers. But we are working on it.
Agreed, fully agree, Dr. Kuru. Thank you so much. So moving on. So again, a request to panelists. So I will go through this round two and request you to please restrict your answers to 2 to 2.5 minutes as we are overshooting time. So my question to Dr. Mohammad Amin Mir. So learning from failures is just as important, Dr. Mir. So could you discuss a notable clinical trial failure, such as Pfizer's torcetrapib, which we know, and its lessons it taught the industry because it's known as one of the most expensive clinical trial failures, but it taught us a lot. So it's such expensive trial failures also which can give us lessons. So what should budding students who want to get into this field learn from such failures? Dr. Mohammad Amin Mir, please.
Yes, Amir, we can say that there is a famous pamphlet, गिरते हैं शाहसवार मैदानी जंग में वो तिपल क्या गिरे जो घुटनों के बल चले. So that means when we are going for some journey, there will be failures, and we have to accept those failures, and we have to take the learnings from those failures. The important point from this concept is we should understand that even after investing so much of money, around $800 million to $1 billion they have invested on this molecule, but Pfizer does not give the second thought to discontinue this program. When there was more cardiovascular event, there was more mortality. So it shows that the industry, especially the developed world industry, is more professional. They respect the safety of the patient. They did not give the second thought to see that we have invested so much in this, we should continue with that. So one more learning for students is that if we see in this torso what went wrong, the idea was if there is increase, if we can increase the HDL, that is a good cholesterol, and we can decrease the LDL, that is a bad cholesterol, then we can decrease those cardiovascular events, we can manage the cholesterol. So that was the objective of this inhibition of CETPs. But at that time, when we are working on some product, we need to keep an eye. Okay, this is the target. This is this target site of action. But we need to also keep an eye whether it is acting somewhere else, which is negative for this drug, which happened with this drug. It was also acting on angiotensin inhibitors. So that lead to increase in BP and that lead to the cardiovascular events. So the learning from these failures is when we plan for any development, there should be a well-designed blueprint, that is well-designed protocol. There should be the well-designed strategy, and there should be the continuous evaluation of each and every step. So I want to add over here is the question which was put to the Arshad, the gap between industry and academics. That is, we need to learn how we play like a team, how we can be organized. Like I'm in drug development, I'm more in clinical operations. I can't understand the subject what Arshad is doing because he's there, he's mastering that. I can't do that just at what others academicians can do because they are more in that. So we need to play a role like a team. Then it will be a success story. There is a one question from Tanveer for me and Arshad. Dr. Tanveer, the answer is we need to work like a team. We need to cooperate. We need to share knowledge. We need to respect experience, learning, inputs, whether it is negative or positive. Then we can have to develop some new thing, which you were asking why we are not able to develop new molecules and all that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mir. Thank you. One request to panelists, there are lots of interesting questions in the chat box also. So while we are discussing, so if you can, when you have time, log into the chat box and you can type in your response to the particular participant as well. So that because we may not be able to take all of the questions, but they will at least receive some of the responses in the chat box itself. So again, very briefly, Dr. Raina, following on the important stories for learning, how do successful clinical trials influence future research directions and funding within the pharmaceutical industry? Just brief, couple of minutes response, please.
Sure. Actually, the patent basket is one, the research pipeline, success stories, projections, and the response from the partners. Suppose you develop a drug and then you have a success story to tell to the public and the investors. So then it makes your life a little easier. You have cash in the bank to conduct multiple trials because one single trial takes $25 million to $50 million, one multi-central trial. So people are very conscious about the fact that well-designed protocol should be there, safety issues should be addressed in the protocol very well, emergency handling of situations and all. I'll give a couple of examples how Nectar played a role to life cycle management of drugs from Roche, AstraZeneca, and so we did PEG interferon, which increased the life cycle of the product, which was simple interferon, and then it had a lot of adverse events and all. So it was given for this hepatitis C condition. So now PEG interferon is given as an injection. So it increased the sales by almost 10-fold, 20-fold in the beginning until generics were available. And second example is PEG naloxone, which was given as an anti-opioid antagonist. So that's another example that I want to quote. And PEG factor 8 is also there where the repurposing of a drug was done with Takeda, and then Nectar earned a lot of money out of that. And even with nivolumab, Opdiva with Pfizer. So they gave upfront $2 billion to Nectar. 1 billion to conduct the trial and 1 billion to do. We have some, there is a setup actually from research startups also, clinical development also. In India, clinical development may not be at that stage at this point of time, but BIRAC and other institutions are funding startups and research projects of small scale. But I'm sure that if any kind of thing goes ahead in the clinical development, probably some of the companies like Sun Pharma, big companies, Cipla, Dr. Reddy's may be interested to take them forward. So that's how we can build this ecosystem in India.
Thank you, Dr. Raina. You mentioned BIRAC, so that's another creation of our Dr. M.K. Bhan. We are having this session in his memory, third session. So he created BIRAC. He was an institution builder and created BIRAC, and now that has been funding our research big time. So thank you so much for that. So moving on, my question to Professor Shaukat Mir. In the realm of present-day teaching, Professor Mir, can you share an example of how technological advancements have transformed drug discovery and development in the recent years? And what are the key transformations you teach your students, which our attendees today might benefit from? So, Professor Mir, please.
Yeah, like we know, like this drug development, drug research and development, like it is not the same as it used to be last, like say maybe a decade or two before. So now the efforts that are in drug discovery and development, they are more like concerted, yeah, like and product oriented. So if we remember, like if we just recall, like in earlier days, we used to have just like an exhaustive review of literature from these chemical and biological abstracts, and then we were ready to go for the research. But now with this type of information explosion that we have, so we have this step as the part of like one separate step that can be like lended to somebody and that he can do it for you so that he can identify those gaps where you can work. In the same way, we have like we have to have a proof of concept before we proceed further. In the same way, if not the pilot studies, but at least some preliminary data needs to be compiled before we can actually we can start any project. So with this, like we very very early days of my career, I realized that some of those natural products they lack this bioanalytical methods. So I decided with my team, I decided to develop some of those bioanalytical methods. So that way we contribute towards like the industry taking it further and using it for their BAB studies. In the same way, in 2020, in 2015, Government of India came up with this regulation, or we can say they carved out a drug entity or a subclass, what we call as phytopharmaceutical drugs. So they are somewhere between allopathic drugs and those botanicals, which are considered to be supplements. So these can be prescription drugs. So we have also taken up that one. So that way, like this is also another advancement. So I would like to share one example where we have worked with, you can say, with these. There is one product that is used in North Kashmir. We call it as nishast. We have the students they may they recall it. So that is a product like which like locally they use it like in postpartum care. So that helps in like regaining these bone structure or the calcium levels in bone. So what we did, like we tried to develop that SOP, we standardized it, and then we compared it with these market samples. So to our surprise, we found that there can be certain things that can go wrong once it is being once it is produced by in households. So we found that this is a subtilis like that is a little bit not so much wanted. That strain should not have been there. But the one that we developed in our lab that was like having probiotic, useful probiotics, as well as those small chain fatty acids. So in a way, like this is a product like which can be called as a food. So which is a local wisdom or which is local practices to use it after this childbirth and they're taking care. So the idea is that you take an idea from a local wisdom, local practice, and then transform it. So currently, it is being taken up by what we say as these transformative solutions. So they have given us some parameters to check it, and then it will be launched most probably.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mir. Thank you very much. So moving on, Dr. Masoodi, regarding the societal impact of clinical research, what can we do differently towards attracting more students from the valley into this very important field? And do you think that we do have such infrastructure there in Kashmir which can sufficiently train them within our institutions? And what kind of collaboration should be initiated outside? And do you think Kashmir Care Foundation can be of any help in establishing such collaboration? Dr. Masoodi, please.
Thank you, Amar. Well, let me apprise of August gathering, especially Dr. Lal, that the place where you guys are staying right now at Sun Pharma. So I think most of the Hamdardians have been to that place for clinical trials. We have received placebos, we have received APIs, and then our blood was withdrawn periodically. I believe Arshad Bhai has also been to that clinical trials also before joining the Remaxe. So coming to clinical research, it involves basically the study about the safety and effectiveness of a treatment, as our Arshad Bhai and Meesa was saying, for the diagnostics and pharmaceuticals for human use. So this is a very small course. It depends upon how you take it. You have some certificate courses, some diploma courses, BSc in clinical research, MSc in research, and there are very good institutes throughout the country where you can have these courses. And after completing the courses, one can take the pursue career in the clinical research as analyst, be it research associate or what you call a clinical physicians, and he can earn a handsome salary. So very less focus is basically right now. I don't know whether students know that much or not about the clinical research, especially in Kashmir. So most of them, after doing B Farm, they go for the higher studies in the different specializations. So for this clinical research to attract more people coming to this, we need to conduct more such events as KCF is doing. And also, I think that we need to collaborate with some academic institutes so that more and more students can be apprised about this kind of the course. And regarding the infrastructure which is available at our university, so I fear not. We don't have such kind of facility here in Kashmir to train people in the field of clinical research. But as I told you that there are many institutes outside Kashmir which provide courses, different courses. And but we can always, uh, communicate to people, communicate to apprise, sensitize them, and send them outside Kashmir to train our people. And regarding the collaboration of what should be initiated outside the valley, so I think that more and more we can arrange such kind of initiatives. So I think this was the question, Amir.
Yes, 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 perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Dr. Mubashir Masoodi. So
Okay.
that's very insightful as well. So before we move to round number three, in which we will now, since considering time constraints, we will have just 1 minute round for each one of us because that is about inspiring future clinical researchers. But before that, I would like to take one of the questions from the chat box. And so a question that I have with me is from Mr. Tausif Khan. It's about what are the current limitations in detecting delayed adverse drug reactions in traditional randomized clinical controlled clinical trials, and how can adaptive trial designs improve long-term safety assessments? So I would like to take this question to Dr. Anna, please. Quick 1 minute answer, Dr. Anna, to this question.
I think the before we go to the clinic, the accuracy of data in the animal studies is very important, because if we are able to establish a very the safety profile of the drug in the animals, and then we convert that into a equivalent human dose, and then test the SAD MAD studies. So probably if we pay attention in that period of time, with material generation, impurity profiling and all, metabolic profile also, metabolic stability of the drug, then we will have a better option to get a better safety profile. We have to know the drug, how it behaves in the body, in the animal body and the human body. So when I was talking in the beginning that accuracy, precision, stability testing, metabolic stability, those are the important parameters. If any of the task is missed out at any point of time, probably we may be losing a better drug uh, for some other reason. So a good drug may go to the kill fast approach by any company. So I think each one of us has to take a task very seriously. We have to really determine whether this drug is really efficacious or safe. That's the best approach, I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Anna. Thank you so much. So I request the panelists again to engage with the audience through the chat box as well. There are many questions, so please feel free to answer any question that you find relevant to your field. So as Dr. Mubashir was also mentioning about collaborations outside the institute and all. So we today have lots of institutions from outside Kashmir also joining this session, Kashmir Care Foundation session. We have students and faculty from Harsha Institute of Pharmacy, Lucknow, from Integral University, Faculty of Pharmacy, Lucknow. We have Jamia Hamdard students also joining in. We have several colleges from Hyderabad that Dr. Raina forwarded the invites to. So this also is an opportunity for establishing such collaborations. So please get in touch with these panelists. Their information can be obtained from info@kashmircarefoundation.org. And if there is any such information that you want to share and want to connect with anyone and want to initiate a collaboration out of these discussions that we have today, please feel free to reach out through Kashmir Care Foundation. So moving on to the last round, where we will have quick 1 minute responses, please. Humble request to all the panelists to keep it under 1 minute, because this is about inspiring the future clinical researchers. So this time I will go in the reverse order, starting with Professor Masoodi. Professor Masoodi, what message do you have for young researchers from Kashmir who aspire to achieve global recognition in the field of pharmacy and clinical research? Quick 1 minute message.
Thank you, Amir, for your question. So I believe that once you get enrolled for any program, be it pharmacy, be it clinical research, so take very seriously. If you want to make it big, be focused and consistent. I think the example of focus and consistent to me in industry is the Arshad Bhai. So you'll get many opportunities to excel. So, be it getting into manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, be it clinical research or regulatory, or qualifying GPAT after your B Pharm and making to masters, and then you complete your PhD program. So, once you have the PhD program, you can go abroad for PDF or just opt for academics, or you can clear the GRE TOEFL after B Pharm and land in the United States for higher studies, and ultimately you qualify the pharmacy exam and you be the pharmacist as the easy way out. So, I believe that the consistency is the key, Amir.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Masoodi. So that's very insightful as well. Again, for the students, that you have to have such role models. As Professor Masoodi mentions, that he appreciates how Dr. Kuru shaped his career. So they have been
In
watching each
industry,
other,
right?
learning from each other, and getting inspired. So all students should have their role models and get inspired from their journeys, and then have that dedication and perseverance. Thank you, Professor Masoodi, for that very
Thank
interesting
you, Amir.
answer.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Dr. Shaukat Mir, you are faculty at India's topmost institution for pharmacy education. Jamia Hamdard is repeatedly ranked #1 in India for pharmacy. So, looking to the future, how do you see the role of academia in nurturing the next generation of clinical researchers? What should pharmacy educators do differently to produce the best pharmacy graduates and clinical researchers? Dr. Mir, a quick 1 minute response, please.
Yeah, I mean, like faculty, like this pharmacy as a field or as academicians, we try to update our syllabus quite frequently. In the same way, like our this pharmacy education regulations that have come in 2014 and 2020, and currently one more is under process. So we will be having an revised, like you can say, curriculum. So their like the basic point is like this is a field where we welcome all the people from all field backgrounds, be it science, statistics, it can be even law, management. So all these have their like say in drug discovery and development. We have some of those programs which are regulated by Pharmacy Council of India. Otherwise, the universities can start their own like maybe PG diploma courses or other MS or BS courses. So the concerted effort by all of them, like be it like those better like the people from law or management or like these analysis, so they can make their mark in this field. So at the end, I would like to just make one remark, which is like I find that girls, they are already outnumbered boys in the research, particularly in PG and research studies in pharmacy. But they got a very like with respect to their representation in industry and corporate, their number goes drastically low. So my piece of advice will be that so this is quite a happening field. Like we should move on to those fields as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mir. My question to Dr. Raina now. From your perspective, Dr. Raina, what are the most exciting areas of clinical research that young scientists should consider specializing in?
See, there are two aspects in this because the expertise involves technical expertise as well as operational expertise. A person who has a who is expert in the hard skill. Say, for example, just now Shaukat sir was mentioning that okay, we are developing some bioanalytical methods and all. So, if we know the instrumentation part, if we know the procedure, sample processing of a natural product, how to extract a particular natural product, and then GCMS technology, ICP-MS technologies, and all. So we have to first become the expert in the hot technology. Then we can leverage the operational experience with some senior so that the growth occurs. Operation means program management, regulatory, quality assurance, supply chain management, digital solutions, including AI involvement and all. So operation part is comes only when you have the technical expertise. So technical expertise is instrumentation also is there, sample preparation processing is there, and then writing of protocols is there, knowing the guidelines is there. So these are the basic things that people should be looking forward to go into these areas. Say formulator, chemical synthesis, understand the processes, understand the nitty-gritties in the manufacturing process and all. So there are so many. Actually, what I mentioned in the beginning, all those areas are very competitive also and also lucrative. But one has to stick to one field at one time till the understanding comes to go to the operation level.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Raina. Now, my question to Dr. Mohammed Amin Mir, what advice would you give to young professionals eager to enter the field of clinical research, particularly in patient safety and risk management? Dr. Mir, please.
Yes, Amir, I want to add over here that, see, everyone who is participating over here, I think they are doing some basic courses. So basic education is necessary for every stream of job, whether it is clinical research, whatever it is. To make a difference, there are two things now. The way we become these digital world. So after the internet, now everything is paperless. We are more of IT savvy. If you really want to grow in a short span of time, if you want to make a difference, then in addition to your basic education, you should be good in your soft skills, that is the IT skills, and you should good in your presentation skills. These are the two important things which I am observing in current generation. We are struggling with that. So make a habit of using that. You should have good communication skills, good presentation skills, make your point in a short time, because time is a money and time is everything. So I can say only that if you want to come into this pharmacovigilance, just you need to be clear in your basic education. In addition to that, you should have the soft skills, and that is all.
Thank you, Dr. Mir. Thank you so much. My last question to Dr. Kuru. For aspiring researchers, what essential skills and knowledge should they focus on acquiring in the early stages of their career? So early stages, what is it that they should learn?
हम सब मैं एक्चुअली कुछ चैट बॉक्स पे कुछ क्वेश्चंस देख रहा था, तो आई वॉन्ट गिव मी वन मोर मिनट, तो उसको भी आंसर करूंगा साथ में। और मैं जानबूझ के इसको उर्दू में आंसर कर रहा हूं क्योंकि स्टूडेंट से क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं। क्लिनिकल रिसर्च के लिए आपकी कोई स्पेसिफिक क्वालिफिकेशन जरूरी नहीं कि सिर्फ एमफॉर्म बंदा है या एमएससी बंदा ही क्लिनिकल रिसर्च में आ सकता है। हमारी क्लिनिकल रिसर्च में फार्मेसी बंदे भी हैं, हमारे पास मेडिकल फील्ड से भी लोग हैं, हमारे पास कंप्यूटर इंजीनियर्स भी हैं, कंप्यूटर ऑपरेटर्स भी हैं, हमारे पास मैथमेटिशियंस भी हैं, हमारे पास स्टैटिस्टिशियंस भी हैं, हमारे पास बायोटेक्नोलॉजी बंदे भी हैं, हमारे पास अकाउंट्स वाले भी हैं, हमारे पास फाइनेंस वाले बंदे भी हैं। सो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन क्या रोल उनको चाहिए, उसके हिसाब से वो आ सकते हैं। बट यस, I do agree that mainly we prefer medical graduates and former graduates, but बाकी roles भी आ सकते हैं। और second important thing, जैसे एक क्वेश्चन आया था कि साइबर सिक्योरिटी हम कैसे प्रिवेंट करते हैं, हमें साइबर सिक्योरिटी बंदे भी चाहिए होते हैं इसमें साइबर सिक्योरिटी करने के लिए। तो we need everyone। अगर किसी को भी ऐसा लगता है कि वो नहीं आ सकते, वो गलत है, हमें सब कुछ चाहिए होती है। बस second important thing is that what's new in clinical research, and there was another question from Ishtiyaq, who is an M.Pharm student from Kashmir University. So to all of the students who wants to come in clinical research, there's a trend now going on in clinical research that how can we avoid human beings being guinea pigs? Can we have some different models or PK models or PD models? Yes, there's a lot of trend going on. FDA is approaching all the industries, especially to generic industries as well as innovative companies that can we generate some models. So for that, like we are doing IVIVC, that's in vitro in vivo correlation. PK-PD modeling, that is physiologically based pharmacokinetic models, PB-PD, that is physiologically based pharmacodynamic models, IVRT, that is in vitro release test, IVPT means in vitro permission test, PK-PD, pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic relation. So for this, again, we need computer programmers, we need computer operators, we need pharma graduates, we need mathematicians, we need statisticians who are very innovative in mind, and they can help us in developing these models. And to answer your question, Mr. Ishtiyaq, there are different applications, like I can tell you, like GastroPlus, PKSim, non-member softwares which are used to generate these models, and these are alternates to clinical research, alternates to equivalence studies, alternates to even phase 1, phase 2 studies.
Thank you, Dr. Kuru. Thank you. And that's very useful for the students who would want to learn these skills. So with this, we conclude the third round as well. And there are two questions that we will take now. One of the questions I would like to answer that first, and then I have a question for the panelists. So the question that I would like to take is from Mr. Tariq Malik. Tariq bhai, assalamu alaikum. So Tariq bhai is asking that in Kashmir or anywhere else, there are fields like IITs, JEEs, and NEETs, or medical training, and so on and so forth, that are very popular. So how do we encourage people into these fields which may not be very popular, like clinical research and so on? So the answer to this is, Mr. Tariq Malik, that the endeavor of Kashmir Care Foundation is exactly this. So we know that people many a times are not aware, they do not have that exposure to know more, that where the world is progressing towards, and there are big newer fields as well. So that's where these sessions like these are going to be very, very helpful. So if we engage with more and more students and spread the word around about these very interesting sessions, they will certainly get to know, and we can do our bit in our play. And the last question that is addressed to panelists, this is from Mr. Tanveer Ahmed Wani. He's a professor in King Saud University. He says that it's nostalgic for me to see my colleagues and seniors together. I completed my PhD from Jamia Hamdard in 2008, where Professor Mubashir and Professor Shaukat were seniors and later joined Fortis Medical Research. So he would like to ask Dr. Arshad and Dr. Amin, although there have been huge advancements, have there been any drug molecule that have Indian companies have made and it's now have now been able to produce new molecules? So any drugs that have come out of India? So Dr. Arshad, if you want to take that quickly in 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, quickly, like Sun Pharma has Syndrium, and there are other companies also who have one or the two molecules, not much. I'm sure not much, but there are a couple of molecules produced by Indian companies like Dr. Reddy's Biocon, and maybe Dr. I mean, you can just put that up.
I would like to quickly add to that also that Dr. Wani, if you are aware of this CSR Institute, CSR Central Drug Research Institute, Lucknow, where I work, so 20 plus drugs have come out of independent India since 1947, where everything has been done within India, like concept to commercialization, discovery से लेके development तक सारा India में हुआ हो. 20 drugs have come out, 20 plus drugs, and 13 out of those have come out of CSR CDRI. So you may look up, there is a very landmark molecule called Centroman that was world's first oral non-hormonal contraceptive pill, and once a week pill, which was first in world and is still manufactured in tons, and it's called Centroman. You can look that up. It came from CDRI. And there is another landmark drug called alpha beta artether, which is a lifesaver drug in case of cerebral malaria. And not only used in India, it is exported to African countries as well, where there is lots of malaria. So there are lots of interesting drugs that have come out of Indian institutions as well as industries as well. So the drug discovery kind of overall, it's not the same as it was, as we know. So it may get difficult day by day, but then, yeah, there is a lot of work that is presently going on. So with this, we would like to conclude this round number 3 as well. And I will like to hand this over to Dr. Altaf Lal for introducing the next session and its panelists, and for his concluding remarks, please. Dr. Lal.
Amir, thank you so much. And you notice I took over the screen now. But my good friends are sitting on my right here. मैं 3 या 4 चीजें पहले कहूँगा कि हम उन पर कशिर पढ़ते हैं. So for non-Kashmiris, I'm going to have a 30-second Kashmiri. Even Pathan session and Shen session Wichan, there is something in Baramulla. So Baramulla की हवा और Baramulla की पानी में वहाँ की parentage में कुछ है. So Mubarak to Baramulla.
Thank you.
Hamid Zargar साहब अगर आप सुन रहे हैं, Mubarak to you as well. There's a story of Hamid Zargar as well. Kashmir Care Foundation is actually becoming a family. And in that context, Vijay and Jyotsna's older daughter is getting married next month. Arshana ke liye sab log dua kijiyega for her happily married life. Please do keep them in your dua. एक और चीज है कि इस सेशन में सब पैनलिस्ट were men. It's not for absence of women in this field. If you go to Shaukat Saab's department, there are women. If you go to Arshad's R&D unit in Gurgaon, there are more women than men. But Kashmiri औरतें अभी leadership role में नहीं पहुंची है. So that to Mubashir Saab, to you, and to Shaukat Saab, to you, and to leadership of Kashmir University, please pay attention to that. And I want to tell to those who are non-Kashmiris in this audience, the term Kashmiri is very inclusive for us. The fact that it is Kashmir Care Foundation doesn't mean it's only Kashmir Care Foundation, it's everyone's foundation. It cares for everyone. अब जो ये स्टूडेंट्स या यंग प्रोफेशनल्स फार्मेसी के थे हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए, I'm going to propose something bold to you. If I was you in Lucknow or Hyderabad or Jamia Hamdard, I will write a 5 to 800 word essay. Essay नहीं, एक proposal. मैं ये सोच रहा हूँ करना, and send it to info@kashmircarefoundation.org, जैसे आमिर साहब ने कहा. We'll make sure that these good men and women that we have as experts will see it. They'll respond to you. Through that, we'll create a mentorship relationship with you, ताकि जो आप आके करें वो सोच समझ के करें. जो फैसिलिटी अरशद के पास नहीं थी, अमीन साहब के पास नहीं थी, शौकत साहब के पास नहीं, जो मेरे पास नहीं थी, आमिर साहब के पास नहीं थी. Now coming to the last piece. अभी तक हम साइंस पे ही बात करते रहे थे जब से हमने शुरुआत की कश्मीर केयर फाउंडेशन की. सो बहुत से हमारे पास सवाल आए कि मैं कहता हूँ साइंस से मतलब बेहतिकात, अब साइंस से हट के भी कुछ बात करो. एंड दैट वाज एक्चुअली इन प्लान्स. हमारा नेक्स्ट सेशन है बैलेंसिंग हैप्पीनेस एंड सक्सेस, एंड मुश्ताक साहब shared with you some of the themes, and I'm going to ask Saba in a minute to do that as well. We'll have a session on making of an entrepreneur. We'll have a session on smoking cessation. I don't know how many of you know, when we smoke, we inhale 60 proven carcinogens, and there are the 2,000 more chemicals that are not being characterized yet. We'll have a session on critical thinking, creative writing, and effective communication. We'll have a session on language and arts. We have sessions in place till July of 2027, I think. तो आपकी मदद से बहुत काम हुआ है, and this is just one piece of Kashmir Care Foundation. बहुत सारे काम हैं जो आपके साथ मिलकर करेंगे. तो Saba, with that, I want you to please talk about your session on the last Sunday of March. Over to you, Saba.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. So I will be hosting the session at the end of March on balancing success and happiness with a focus on school life, particularly. That's my expertise for the past 15 years. I would urge, apart from students, school students, I would really like parents and teachers to come on board and listen to us. We're going to have, of course, the psychological and scientific aspect of it, but just real lived experiences and tips. And we need to change parenting. We need to change how teachers teach. And, there is a great, the world has changed. So let's work to make students' lives better, because that will then take them to happiness rather than the traditional way which we're stuck in. So please join us at the end of next month for our session on case here. Thanks.
Thank you, Sabaji. And Sabaji mentioned this triangular relationship, parents, teachers, and students. In the parents triangle angle, grandparents are also involved. So I'm actually going to urge grandparents to dial in too. Ye, mere khayal se will be one of the most important sessions in our series. So with that, Amir Saab, thank you so much. Over to you to conclude it.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to thank all of the panelists and participants today for making this session really very, very exciting. And one request to all the attendees, please do follow Kashmir Care Foundation. We are on social media with Facebook, Instagram, X, as well as YouTube. So follow our hashtag Kashmir Care Foundation and like us and follow us so that we can keep you updated with our programs and keep sharing our stories with you. So, please write to us, as sir also mentioned, for all of those students, you can have those write-ups, one-pagers, and share that idea, which we can go through, and that mentorship program is created. So with this, if there are no further comments from Dr. Lal, so we'd like to close. So as we conclude this today's session, we do reflect on the profound insights and inspiring stories shared by our panelists. Thank you for enlightening us with your experiences, challenges, and the exciting opportunities that lie ahead in clinical research. Let's continue to inspire and be inspired as we contribute to the betterment of global health through our endeavors. Thank you to our panelists and all our participants who joined in from various parts of the country and various parts outside the country as well. Thank you so much, and 3 cheers for Kashmir Care Foundation. See you in the next session, everybody. Thank you.